The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed like shattered glass under the storm's fury, but inside my chest, a different tempest raged, one that had been building for months, fed by stolen glances and half-spoken words. Jordan's hand brushed mine as we ducked into the dimly lit speakeasy, his touch lingering a beat too long, sending a jolt through me that no lightning could match. In that instant, as his blue eyes locked onto mine, wide with something he couldn't name, I knew. The lie he'd sworn to the world, and to himself, was crumbling, and tonight, it would shatter us both. I first met Jordan Hayes 6 months earlier, on a sweltering July afternoon in the glass-walled conference room of Vanguard Designs, a midtown firm where creativity collided with corporate deadlines like waves against concrete piers. New York had always been my chaos, a city that mirrored the wild pulse of my heart. Unapologetically gay, fiercely alive at 28, with a portfolio of illustrations that bled emotion onto every page. I'd moved here from Seattle 5 years prior, chasing the anonymity of crowds where I could love freely, or at least pretend to when the nights grew too lonely. But Jordan? He was the wild card dropped into my deck, fresh from Austin, Texas, with a southern drawl that wrapped around vowels like kudzu on a fence post. He strode into that room like he owned the skyline, broad-shouldered and sun-tanned, his blonde hair tousled just enough to suggest he'd wrestled the wind on his flight in. 30 years old, he carried the easy confidence of a man who'd never questioned his place in the world, straight as an arrow, or so his resume implied through the haze of barbecues and ex-girlfriends listed under interests. As the new lead architect on our urban renewal project, a cluster of eco-friendly lofts rising from the ashes of Harlem's forgotten blocks, he shook hands with the team, his grip firm, his smile disarming. When he reached me, Alex Rivera, the graphic lead sketching mood boards that captured the soul of the streets, our palms met, and something electric hummed beneath my skin. "Alex, right? Love what you've got going here," he said, nodding at my sketches pinned to the wall, vibrant strokes of graffiti-inspired patterns blending with sleek lines, a nod to the neighborhood's resilient spirit. His eyes, that piercing blue like a summer sky over the plains, scanned the art with genuine appreciation, not the polite skim most suits offered. "Thanks, man. It's all about breathing life into the bones of the city," I replied, my voice steady despite the way his proximity stirred the air. I was used to this, fleeting attractions to straight guys who saw me as the cool, creative type, a safe harbor for their curiosities without crossing lines. But Jordan lingered, flipping through my portfolio binder, his fingers brushing the edges of pages I'd poured my heart into. By the end of the meeting, he'd claimed the seat next to mine for the brainstorming session, his knee bumping mine under the table once, twice, accidental enough to dismiss, but charged enough to linger in my thoughts. As the team dispersed, he clapped a hand on my shoulder, warm, solid, and said, "We should grab a beer after this sometime. Pick your brain on infusing some Texas grit into these designs." It was casual, professional, the kind of invite that greased the wheels of collaboration. But in the elevator ride down, alone with the hum of descending floors, I caught my reflection in the mirrored walls, cheeks flushed, eyes alight, with that dangerous spark I knew better than to fan. That beer turned into weekly rituals, dive bars in the East Village where the jukebox spun Springsteen and the crowds blurred into a haze of laughter and spilled foam. Jordan opened up over those amber pints, his drawl thickening with each sip, tales of dusty rodeos and family ranches spilling out like confessions. "Grew up believing in black and white, you know? Good guys, bad guys, straight lines from cradle to grave," he'd say, his gaze drifting to the condensation on his glass, as if tracing paths he couldn't quite follow. He had a girlfriend back in Austin, Lila, a high school sweetheart with curves like the hill country hills, but distance had frayed their thread, calls growing sparse, visits a memory. I shared too, in measured doses. The Seattle rains that mirrored my coming-out tears at 18, the parade floats in June that felt like rebirth, the string of boyfriends who'd flickered bright, then faded like faulty bulbs. Jordan listened, head tilted, that easy smile fading into something deeper, more intent. "Must take guts, owning that in a world full of judgments," he'd murmur, and I'd nod, wondering if he heard the echo of his own unspoken battles in those words. As summer bled into fall, our project hit fever pitch, late nights in the office, takeout containers littering desks, the scent of fresh blueprints mingling with cooling coffee. Jordan's designs evolved under my influence, sharp angles softened with organic swirls, evoking the pulse of Harlem's jazz veins. We'd huddle over screens, shoulders brushing, his breath warm against my ear as he pointed out a line. See here? That's your touch. Makes it feel alive, not just functional. Pride swelled in me, but so did the ache. The way his laugh rumbled low when I cracked a joke about corporate vampires sucking the soul from art. One crisp October evening, after a 12-hour grind, we escaped to the High Line, the elevated park threading through the meatpacking district's ghosts. Leaves crunched underfoot, the Hudson's murmur a distant lullaby as we walked, city lights winking like conspirators below. Jordan bought us hot cider from a vendor, steam curling like secrets between us. This place, it's magic, ain't it? He said, voice hushed, as if afraid to disturb the twilight. We leaned on the railing, shoulders touching now without pretense, watching joggers and lovers blur into silhouettes. That's when the first crack appeared. A street performer strummed a guitar nearby, crooning an old folk tune about lost loves and winding roads. Jordan's profile sharpened in the fading light. Joss said, eyes distant. Ever feel like you're on the wrong path, Alex? Like everything you built is solid, but one wrong step and it all tumbles. His words hung heavy, laced with a vulnerability I'd glimpsed only in shadows. I turned to him, heart thudding. All the time. But the fall? That's where you find out what you're really made of. Our eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that blue gaze, storm-tossed, searching. He looked away first, swigging his cider, but the air between us crackled, alive with what neither dared voice. Back at the office the next week, tension simmered like a pot left too long on the flame. Jordan arrived with shadows under his eyes, his usual banter clipped. Whispers circulated. Lila had visited over the weekend, their reunion a spark that reignited old flames. Or so he claimed in the break room, voice too loud, laugh too forced. She's the one, man. Always has been. We're making it work, long distance be damned. The team nodded, oblivious, but I saw the flicker in his eyes when they landed on me. A plea, or perhaps a warning. I threw myself into work, sketching feverishly, lines bleeding into abstractions of tangled hearts and fractured skies. But avoidance only amplified the pull. During a client pitch, our hands grazed over the projector remote, innocent, electric, and Jordan jerked back as if burned, his cheeks flushing under the fluorescent glare. Sorry, he muttered, but later, in the empty hallway, he cornered me. Alex, about the other night. I didn't mean to unload like that. Just tired, you know? It's cool, I said, forcing a grin. We're good. But we weren't. That night, alone in my Brooklyn walk-up, the walls closing in with the scent of rain-damp brick, I replayed every moment. The brush of knees, the weight of his gaze. Desire coiled tight in my gut, a beast I'd tamed before, but couldn't now. Jordan Hayes, straight, spoken for, a southern rock in my fluid world, was unraveling me thread by thread. Little did I know, he was fraying too. The speakeasy that fateful November night was a hidden gem in Soho, tucked behind an unmarked door in a brownstone that whispered of prohibition ghosts. Rain hammered the city like judgment, driving us inside where jazz notes curled through cigar smoke and amber lowballs. Jordan had texted mid-storm, stuck in this downpour. Meet for a drink? Need to clear my head. I'd hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen, but the pull was magnetic, irresistible as gravity. We claimed a corner booth, leather cracked and yielding, the kind that swallowed secrets. Jordan shrugged off his wet jacket, revealing a white tee clinging to the ridges of his chest, droplets tracing paths down his neck. Hell of a night, he said, signaling the bartender for whiskey's neat. His eyes, though, those eyes held the real storm, turbulent and unguarded. We talked shop at first, safe terrain. The project's groundbreaking ceremony looming, blueprints approved, Harlem's elders nodding approval at our renders. But the liquor loosened tongues, and soon we veered into deeper waters. Lila's coming out next month, he announced, swirling his glass. For good this time. Quitting her job, joining me here. It's happening. Us, the whole deal. Congratulations stuck in my throat like glass. That's huge. You sound thrilled. Lies. His posture screamed anything but, shoulders hunched, gaze evading mine. Yeah, well. He downed his drink, Adam's apple bobbing. It's what you do, right? Build the life you're supposed to. Dad always said, son, love's like a foundation. Pour it right the first time, or it cracks. His voice cracked on the last word, a fissure mirroring the one in my heart. The band shifted to a sultry saxophone solo, bodies swaying on the dance floor like shadows in heat. I watched him watch them, a straight couple lost in rhythm, her head on his shoulder. Jordan's jaw tightened, fingers drumming the table. "Ever dance with someone and forget the world's watching?" he asked, voice low, almost lost in the music. "All the time," I replied, the whiskey burning truth into my words. "It's in those moments you see who they really are, no masks, just raw." He met my eyes then, and the booth shrank, the room fading to a hush. Blue depths pulled me under, swirling with confusion, hunger, a plea for absolution. Time stretched, elastic and aching, his pupil dilating like a secret unfolding. In that gaze, I saw it all. The boy from Texas fields, wrestling demons in the dark. The man swearing oaths to labels that chafed like ill-fitted boots. The spark igniting for me, forbidden and fierce. My breath caught, pulse thundering. "Jordan." He blinked, shattering the spell, leaning back with a forced chuckle. "Damn, this booze hits hard." Forget I said that. But his hand, God, his hand, reached across the table, covering mine in a grip that trembled, thumb tracing a circle on my knuckle, soft as a whisper. The world tilted. Rain lashed the windows, but inside, fire raged. I didn't pull away. Neither did he. We stumbled out into the deluge an hour later, collars turned up against the chill, laughter bubbling as we dashed for the subway. But the high from that touch lingered, a drug in our veins. At the station, platforms slick and echoing. The train roared in, doors hissing open. Jordan grabbed my arm, pulling me close amid the crush. "Alex, wait." His face inches from mine, breath mingling with rain scent, eyes searching again. That same storm, now breaking. The doors closed without us, the train vanishing into the tunnel. Alone on the platform, he didn't let go. "I can't stop thinking. About you. About us. But Lila." "Forget Lila for a second," I urged, voice raw. "What do you want, Jordan? Right now, in this moment, what's screaming inside you?" He closed his eyes, forehead pressing to mine, a gesture intimate as a kiss. "You. God help me, it's you." Then his lips crashed against mine, desperate, devouring, tasting of whiskey and regret and revelation. The platform spun, my hands fisting his shirt, pulling him closer as the world dissolved into salt and heat. We broke apart gasping, his back against the tiled wall, chest heaving. "I'm straight," he whispered, but the words rang hollow, a mantra unspooling. I swore I was. To her, to my family, to myself. "Your eyes say different," I murmured, tracing his jaw, feeling the stubble rasp under my thumb. "They've been saying it for months." He pulled me into another kiss, slower this time, exploratory, tongues tentative, then bold, mapping uncharted territory. Hands roamed, mine under his shirt, feeling the taut plane of his abs, his in my hair, angling deeper. The next train thundered past, oblivious, as we lost ourselves in the dim glow of emergency lights. We didn't make it back to my place that night. The storm had flooded streets, cabs scarce. Instead, we holed up in a 24-hour diner, steam-fogged windows shielding us from prying eyes. Over greasy eggs and black coffee at dawn, reality crept in like fog off the river. Jordan's phone buzzed incessantly. Lila, no doubt, her text a lifeline he ignored. "This can't happen," he said, voice cracking over his mug. "I'm not. I can't be." "But you are," I said gently, reaching for his hand across the formica. "Labels don't make us, Jordan. Feelings do. And what we felt last night, that's real." He stared at our joined fingers, knuckles white. "What if it's just the city, the booze, some phase? Then we figure it out. Together." But doubt gnawed at me too, the project wrapping soon, his move with Lila looming. New York was a crucible, forging or breaking, and I feared we'd meld under the heat. The days blurred into a fever dream. Stolen moments in supply closets, his mouth hot on my neck during lunch breaks, late-night texts that veered from architecture to ache, his words a bridge across the miles to Austin. "Miss your laugh," he'd type at 2 a.m., and I'd reply with a voice note, husky with want, recounting dreams where his hands mapped my skin like blueprints. But cracks widened. Lila arrived early, a whirlwind of suitcases and southern sweetness, crashing into our office like sunshine through storm clouds. She was everything his stories painted, warm laugh, curves hugged by sundresses, eyes that lit when they found him. "Jordan Hayes, you didn't tell me your team's this talented," she cooed, hugging me tight, oblivious to the way my smile strained. He introduced us casually. Alex is the genius behind the visuals, but his eyes begged silence, a pact sealed in subway shadows. Over team dinners, her hand on his thigh under the table, I nursed a beer, the foam bitter as envy. Yet in stolen glances across the room, his gaze held mine, apologetic, hungry, a lifeline in the charade. One evening, after a gallery opening for the project's promo art, my illustrations splashed across canvases, Harlem's soul alive in color. Lila dragged us to a rooftop lounge overlooking the twinkling grid. Champagne flowed, toasts rang out, but Jordan pulled me aside near the edge, wind whipping our ties. "This is torture," he confessed, voice low. "Seeing you, wanting you, while she's right there." "Then tell her," I urged, heart pounding against ribs. "Or walk away. But don't drag us through this half-life." He gripped the railing, knuckles paling. "I love her, or I thought I did. But you're under my skin, Alex. Like nothing else." We kissed there, hidden by potted palms, the city a symphony below, horns blaring indifference. His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't realized fell. "I'm scared," he admitted against my lips. "Of losing everything." "Fear's just the shadow of what you really want," I whispered, echoing words I'd told myself years ago, coming out to a family that fractured but eventually mended. Lila called his name then, her voice a summons. He pulled back, eyes haunted, and I watched him return to her side, arms slipping around her waist like armor. That night, alone in my apartment, the walls echoed with what-ifs, the bed cold as unanswered prayers. But hope flickered stubborn. The groundbreaking dawned crisp and golden, hard hats gleaming under news cameras. As the mayor's shovel bit earth, Jordan stood beside me in the crowd, our pinkies brushing, a secret tether. "This is ours," he murmured, nodding at the dirt, turning to promise. "You and me, we built this." In that moment, amid cheers and flashbulbs, I believed. But belief is fragile as frost, and winter was coming. Winter clamped down on New York like a vice, snow blanketing the streets in deceptive peace, while blizzards howled through my bones. The project milestone passed in a whirl of press releases and backslaps, but the real storm brewed in the silences between Jordan and me, stolen texts at odd hours, his "miss you" a ghost in my inbox, my replies a plea wrapped in humor. Lila had nested into his life like ivy, their new apartment in Chelsea a showcase of Texas tchotchkes amid sleek Manhattan lines, cowboy boots by the door, framed photos of rodeos on walls that once held my sketches. I threw myself into freelance gigs, commissioned murals for queer youth centers in the village, each brushstroke a catharsis, colors bleeding defiance and desire. Friends noticed the hollows under my eyes, the way I'd zone out mid-conversation. "Spill it, Rivera," my best friend Mia demanded over dim sum in Chinatown, her chopsticks poised like interrogators. A fiery dyke with a buzz cut and tattooed arms, she'd been my parade partner since day one in the city. "It's this guy," I confessed, voice muffled by pork buns. "Straight, or says he is. But we're something. And his girlfriend's the human equivalent of a white picket fence." She snorted, eyes sharp. "Straight guys are like kryptonite, Alex. Fun to fantasize, fatal to touch. Cut loose before he kryptons your ass." But cutting loose felt like carving out a lung. Jordan and I navigated the minefield with coded glances at office holiday parties. Eggnog spiked with rum and regret, tinsel twinkling like false stars. One night, after too many toasts, he cornered me in the coat room, fur and wool muffling our breaths. "Come over later," he whispered, lips grazing my ear. "Lila's at a girls' brunch tomorrow. Please." I went. His apartment smelled of pine from the tree and her lavender perfume, a clash that twisted my gut. We didn't speak, just collided in the hallway, coats shedding like skins, his mouth claiming mine with a desperation that bordered on violence. He backed me against the wall, hands everywhere, unbuttoning, exploring, mapping the planes he'd only dreamed of. "Need you," he growled, voice wrecked, as I dropped to my knees, the carpet rough under me. It was frantic, forbidden, his fingers in my hair, gasps echoing off hardwood. When he pulled me up, we tumbled to the guest room bed, bodies entwining in a tangle of limbs and lies. He was all contrasts, the roughness of his calloused palms from drafting tools, the tenderness in how he traced my collarbone, whispering my name like a prayer. "Alex. Fuck." You're beautiful. We moved together, sweat slick and urgent, the world narrowing to the rhythm of skin on skin, his blue eyes locked on mine, unguarded in release. After, we lay spent, sheets twisted like our truths. His head on my chest, heartbeat syncing with mine, he murmured, "This doesn't change anything. I'm still me. It changes everything." I countered softly, fingers combing his damp hair. "You're more than your swears, Jordan. More than her." He tensed, pulling away to stare at the ceiling. "My folks are flying in for New Year's. Dad's old school, Bible Belt through and through. If they knew." The sentence trailed, heavy as lead. "Then don't tell them. Not yet. But don't lie to yourself." I kissed his shoulder, tasting salt. "We deserve honesty, even if it hurts." He left before dawn, a scribbled note on the kitchen counter. "Last night was everything. But I need time. Time. The thief that steals moments, hoarding them in vaults we can't breach." January brought ice storms and isolation. Lila announced their engagement at a team dinner, ring glinting like a shackle under candlelight, cheers drowning my nausea. Jordan's toast was flawless, to building futures, brick by brick. But his eyes found mine across the table, a storm cloud in the toast's glow, promising tempests ahead. I started pulling back, skipping happy hours, burying in work. But fate, that cruel puppeteer, tangled us tighter. A blizzard trapped the office crew overnight, power flickering as snow piled high. Lila was out of town, thank God, and in the conference room's glow from emergency lanterns, Jordan and I ended up alone, blueprints scattered like fallen leaves. "Remember when this was just lines on paper?" he said, voice soft, tracing a curve that mirrored my hip. "Now it's real. Like us." I stepped closer, the air thick with unspoken. He stood, closing the gap, forehead to mine. "I broke it off with Lila. Last night. Told her I couldn't. That it wasn't fair." My heart seized. What did she say? Hurt. Angry. But she saw it coming. Said I'd been distant, like my head was elsewhere. His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing cheeks. "With you." Relief crashed over me, sweet as spring thaw. We kissed then, slow and deep, the storm outside a symphony to ours within. No rush, no guilt. Just us, exploring the architecture of souls laid bare. He mapped me with reverence, lips on scars from old heartbreaks, fingers spelling promises on my thighs. "I want this," he breathed as I arched under him, the conference table a makeshift altar. "Want you. All of you." Dawn broke with plows rumbling, but we lingered, wrapped in each other, whispering futures amid the wreckage of what was. Yet doubt lingered like frost. His parents' visit loomed, a specter from the south. "They won't understand," he confided over takeout in my apartment, snow tapping the window like impatient fingers. Dad once said. Forget what he said. I interrupted, pulling him close. "This is your life, Jordan. Our life." He nodded, but shadows clung. New Year's Eve found us at a queer-friendly bash in Brooklyn. Drag queens lip-syncing gaga, confetti raining like colorful confessions. Jordan, tentative in the throng, held my hand under the strobe lights, his grip a vow. "Feels right," he shouted over the bass, eyes alight. Midnight struck, fireworks blooming over the bridge, and he kissed me publicly, brief, bold, the crowd's cheers a balm. For the first time, he felt like mine. But roots run deep, and the South called back. February's chills seeped into bones, but Jordan and I burned hot, a defiance against the gray. We carved out pockets of normalcy. Brunches at Greasy Spoons where he'd steal my bacon with a wink. Walks in Central Park, gloved hands swinging, breath fogging like shared secrets. He came out to Mia over beers, not straight, bi, I guess, or whatever fits, and her bare hug sealed our trio, her quips a shield against the world's barbs. Work wrapped with fanfare, a ribbon cutting in Harlem, locals toasting with sweet tea and stories of streets reborn. Jordan's designs stood tall, my art woven into facades like veins pulsing life. In the crowd, his arm around my waist, hidden from cameras, but real as the earth underfoot. "We did this," he said, pride swelling his voice. Together. That night, we celebrated privately, candlelit dinner in my walk-up, pasta twirled on forks, wine staining lips red. Laughter flowed easy, his head in my lap as I read poetry aloud. Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass tangling with urban grit. "This is home," he murmured, fingers interlacing mine. "You are. But homecomings have undercurrents. His parents arrived mid-month, a rental car crunching snow in Chelsea's pristine streets. Evelyn Hayes was all warmth, silver-streaked hair, hugs like fresh cornbread, questions tumbling about the city that must eat you alive. Harlan, though, broad as a barn door, mustache bristling, eyes sharp as plow blades, eyed Jordan with a mix of pride and probe. "Son, you look peaked. This place wearing you down." Over steak dinners in Midtown, tension simmered. Harlan grilled him on the firm, the future, a wife, kids, that's the American dream, boy. And Jordan deflected with smiles, his hand finding my knee under the table, a silent anchor. Evelyn adored me, such a talented artist. "Show us your work," and I obliged with prints, her ooze genuine. But Harlan's gaze lingered, appraising, as if scenting something amiss. The breaking point came at a family outing to the Met, masterpieces mocking our fragile facade. In the American wing, amid Remington Broncos rearing wild, Harlan clapped Jordan's back. "Reminds me of the ranch. You were born for that life, not this concrete jungle." Jordan stiffened, glancing at me trailing behind. "Times change, Dad. So do people." That evening, back at their hotel, the call came. Jordan's voice cracking over speakerphone as we huddled in a coffee shop, steam rising like distress signals. He knows. Saw us holding hands in the cab line. Thought it was nothing, but then he cornered me. "Who's the fairy, son? That your roommate?" My stomach plummeted. "What did you say?" Told him the truth. That I love you. That I'm not coming back to Texas. Not like that. Silence stretched, then Harlan's roar. Bible verses hurled like thunder, accusations of betrayal, the family name dragged through mud. Evelyn's sobs wove through, pleading for our boy back. Jordan hung up, face ashen, collapsing into my arms. Lost them. All of it. Sobs racked him, raw and wrenching, and I held tight, murmuring nonsense about time healing, about chosen families. But inside, fury boiled. At Harlan's bigotry, at the world that demanded closets when hearts screamed open. The fallout cascaded. Harlan booked the first flight south, Evelyn trailing with tear-streaked goodbyes. "Call your mama here?" Her hug lingering on me, conflicted compassion in her eyes. Jordan spiraled, skipped work, drowned doubts in bourbon, nights where he'd pace my apartment, muttering, "What if he's right? What if this is a mistake?" I'd pull him to bed, bodies abalm. But sex turned desperate, clawing for connection amid the void. "You're not a mistake," I'd gasp, nails raking his back. "You're my everything." Yet mornings brought hollows, his smiles brittle as thin ice. Mia staged an intervention over pizza in her loft, fairy lights twinkling like hesitant stars. "Grief's a bitch, cowboy," she said, shoving a slice his way. But running from it, that's letting the bastards win. We talked till dawn, his childhood Sundays in stiff pews, crushes on farmhands dismissed as phases, the weight of expectations like a yoke. "I thought straight was safe," he admitted, voice small. "But hiding? That's the real cage." Slowly, fractures mended. He called Evelyn weakly, her voice softening from pleas to questions about that nice Alex. Harlan's silence loomed, a wall unbreached, but Jordan wrote letters, pages of ink-stained honesty, mailed to the ranch like arrows loosed. "Dad, love isn't a choice. It's a force, and this one's pulling me home to myself." Spring teased with crocuses pushing through concrete, mirroring our thaw. Jordan returned to the firm, ideas flowing freer, his designs bolder, curves embracing light, no straight lines unchallenged. We volunteered at the youth center, my murals now joined by his sketches. Kids with rainbows in their fists, defying shadows. One balmy April evening, as cherry blossoms dusted Washington Square Park, he dropped to one knee amid buskers and pigeons. Not a ring, just a key, etched with our initials, to a new loft in Harlem, walls waiting for our art. "Build with me," he asked, eyes clear, blue as endless sky. Not just walls, but a life. Tears blurred my yes, our kiss sealing it amid applause from strangers. But joy's shadow is vigilance, and summer brought Harlan's olive branch, a terse email, coming to the city. Grounds to cover. Jordan paled, but gripped my hand. Together? Always. The meeting unfolded in a neutral diner, Formica scarred like old wounds. Harlan slid in opposite, hat in hand, mustache twitching. "No, Evelyn. Too raw," he'd said. "Son," he started, voice gravel. I prayed. "Read those letters. Ain't easy, but you're my blood." Jordan's breath hitched. "And Alex? He's my heart, Dad." Harlan's gaze flicked to me, appraising anew. "Heard he's good people. Talented." A pause, heavy as harvest. Don't reckon I get it all. But I get family. That's enough for now. It was an absolution. Bigotry's roots run deep, but a start, a crack letting light in. As Harlan rose, clapping Jordan's shoulder, I saw the boy in the man, scared, stubborn, seeking. Outside, under a sky bruised purple, Jordan pulled me close. We did it. Survived the storm. Not survived, I corrected, lips brushing his. Thrived. Yet trials temper, and fate tested once more. Lila resurfaced, a chance encounter at a design expo, her eyes red-rimmed, voice steady. Heard about you too. Took guts, Jordan, walking away. No venom, just ache. Over coffee, she shared her side. Suspicions long held, a love she'd clung to like driftwood. Wish you happiness, she said, hugging me goodbye. A bridge burned, but not to ash. Jordan exhaled months' weight. Closure, he called it, and we toasted that night on our balcony, city lights winking approval. Summer swelled, full and fierce. We moved into the loft, boxes unpacked to jazz on vinyl, walls blooming with our joint canvas. My colors, his structures, a fusion defying labels. Pride weekend found us marching, his hand high in mine, Harlan's card tucked in pocket. A proud of you, son scrawled weeks prior. But love's not linear. It's a spiral, ascending through dips. One humid night, post-argument over his overtime, fears of drifting surfacing like ghosts. Jordan confessed deeper scars. A college fling with a teammate, buried under beer and denial. Thought it was experimentation. But seeing you, it unlocked everything. I held him through the vulnerability, our bodies reaffirming truths words fumbled. We're the experiment that worked, I teased, earning his laugh. Rich, real. As leaves turned again, our first anniversary dawned. No fanfare, just a picnic in the park, sandwiches wrapped in butcher paper, stories swapped like treasures. Eyes don't lie, he said, echoing that subway night, his blue gaze steady. Mine never will. And in that promise, I saw our story, not a straight path, but a winding road, rich with detours leading home. The autumn equinox painted Harlem in fire, leaves aflame, air crisp with possibility. Jordan and I had woven our lives into the warp of the city, mornings tangled in sheets, coffee brewing to NPR's murmur, evenings sketching by window light, his head on my shoulder, pencil scratches a duet. The loft thrummed with us, shelves bowed under art books, fridge stocked with his Tex-Mex experiments mingling with my Thai takeout. Yet growth demands pruning. Harlan's visits evolved from stilted to tentative. A Yankees game where he grumbled at damn prices, but clapped when Jordan explained infield flies. A dinner where Evelyn joined, her potato salad a peace offering, questions about wedding plans, met with blushes and someday ma. Bigotry's embers glowed. Harlan's offhand back in my day slips, but dialogue doused them, slow as rain on drought. Jordan bloomed in openness, coming out to colleagues over rooftop beers, his toast, to truths that set you free. Met with hugs, not hushed tones. He mentored queer interns at the firm, sharing blueprints of courage. Me? I launched a graphic novel. Our story, veiled in metaphor, a straight-laced architect and his ink-slinging muse, eyes betraying blueprints of the heart. Launch night packed the bookstore, Jordan in the front row, eyes shining pride. Challenges lingered, subtle as fog. A client balked at gay vibes in our pitches, Jordan's retort fierce. It's human vibes. Take it or leave. We lost the bid, but gained integrity, toasting with cheap wine to battles worth fighting. Winter circled again, but softer now. Holiday cards from the ranch bore photos. Harlan by the fence, Evelyn waving, a postscript. Room for two at Thanksgiving. We went, drive south through neon nights, nerves electric. The ranch sprawled golden under November sun, air thick with hay and history. Harlan met us at the door, handshake firm for me. Glad you're here, son. Not perfect, but progress. A word from a man of few. Over turkey and tension, stories flowed. Jordan's boyhood escapades, my Seattle shores. Evelyn pulled me aside post-dinner, pie in hand. He smiles different now. Because of you. Tears pricked. I nodded, throat tight. Driving north, Jordan's hand in mine over the console. Family's not blood alone. It's choice. Back in the city, snow fell gentle, blanketing sins. New Year's found us on our rooftop, champagne bubbling, fireworks etching vows in smoke. To eyes that speak true, he toasted, pulling me close. And hearts that listen. I added, our kiss sealing eternity. Years folded like pages, collaborations birthing galleries, adoptions talked in whispers, rings exchanged under cherry boughs. Jordan's gaze never wavered, blue anchor in my storm. He swore once to straightness, but love rewrote oaths. In the end, it's not the labels we wear, but the stories our eyes tell, the quiet revolution of becoming, one honest glance at a time. And in that gaze, we found not just each other, but grace.